In our headlines for this evening, Privy Council restores injunction and essential service personnel to vote early. The details are straight ahead. Good evening and welcome to the Nevis Newscast. Today is Thursday, February 12th, 2015. I'm Donis Wilkinson Keynes. The Privy Council of the United Kingdom today handed down its ruling with respect to an injunction filed by the opposition to restrain the St. Kitts and Nevis government from proclaiming constituency boundaries changes. After consideration of the appellant's appeal against the order made by the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal on February 5th, and having heard submissions on behalf of the parties yesterday, February 11th, today the Privy Council handed down its ruling.
That the appeal should be allowed, that the orders made by Madam Justice Carter on the 27th January 2015 and by the Court of Appeal on the 5th of February 2015 be set aside, and that the interim injunction granted by Madam Justice Carter on the 16th January 2015 be restored. Second, the parties having in their agreement and undertaking recorded in the order made by the Court of Appeal by consent on 5th February 2015 agreed to use for the purposes of the forthcoming election due to take place on Monday the 16th February 2015 whatever list the Privy Council may determine as the appropriate list. It is determined and ordered that, firstly, the list to be used in the said election is and shall be that existing prior to and apart from the proclamation bearing the reference number 2 of 2015, purportedly issued and published by the Governor-General in Extraordinary Gazette number 3 bearing the date 16th January 2015. Second, any effect which the said proclamation would continue otherwise to have, whether in relation to any other election or otherwise, is hereby suspended until further order. All further questions regarding the said proclamation or otherwise, and all questions of costs, be reserved. The Board will put its advice to Her Majesty and its reasons for this order in writing in a judgment which will be handed down in the usual way in due course. The Board is grateful to Council and those assisting them for the way in which this appeal has been prepared and argued.
Following the handing down of the Privy Council's ruling to restore the interim injunction, Premier of Nevis, the Honourable Vance Amory, said today can be termed a red letter day for justice in the country.
And we, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, can show appreciation for the courage displayed by the court in rectifying the grave error and injustice which we believe was perpetrated on us by the Labour NRP government on the 16th of January 2015. The Privy Council has done our nation a great service by setting aside the ruling of Justice Carter and that of the OEC's Court of Appeal. It is a great day for us and for democracy. Justice has prevailed. It is a triumph for our law-abiding values, values that are precious and priceless. It is a vindication of everything that is right and just, and the perseverance of those who sought that justice by appealing to the court to rectify what transpired in St. Kitts in the Parliament on the 16th of January 2015.
According to Premier Amory, this decision by the Court of Law is a victory that belongs to all the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis.
We owe it to ourselves, therefore, to preserve, protect our Constitution and our institutions to ensure that there is no deterioration in the future. Our struggle is a people-centered struggle. With all of our strength, stamina, and activism, we will continue to fight for our people and to protect our democracy and our constitutional rights and freedoms. The judges of the Privy Council have ruled. It is now our turn to safeguard this decision from the forces of evil, quote unquote, and those who continue to deny our democracy.
Premier Amy believes that at the core of the court's decision was the exercise to protect democracy and to preserve respect for the Constitution and the rule of law in the country.
I believe that this decision represents a tremendous victory for the basic constitutional rights of every citizen of our country. We can justifiably be proud that on this day, we have managed to see our country saved from what has been termed creeping dictatorship, and as we continue our journey of rescuing St. Kitts and Nevis from that process. The rule of law is the bedrock of our democracy and the backbone of our nation and should be respected at all times. The decision of the Privy Council certainly makes that very clear to all of us.
Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Vance Amy, making his response to today's ruling by the Privy Council. Meantime, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas has also responded to the ruling. He made an address to the nation at about 3 p.m. today.
The English law lords have ordered the Electoral Commission to use the unfair and unequal boundaries in the election, which will take place on Monday, February 16, 2015. It is clear that the Privy Council has failed to take into account the democratic will and the sentiments of the people, especially at this time. We in Labour feel there is a real gulf of misunderstanding between what has gone on in a courtroom in London and the mood of the ordinary man and woman on the streets here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Prime Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas. Essential services personnel will be allowed to vote on Saturday, February 14th. Last October, the National Assembly Elections Amendment Bill 2014 was passed by the Parliament. The Act allows for essential services personnel, including doctors, nurses, emergency medical technicians, fire and rescue services, and police and defense force personnel to vote 2 days before Election Day. Those opting to vote early were required to submit a form indicating such to the Electoral Office by today, Thursday, February 12th. Senior police officers met Tuesday with the Commissioner of Police, who advised them of the arrangements made for Saturday. Boxes for all the polling divisions will be at one voting location in each constituency. The voting locations will be police stations in all constituencies except St. Christopher II, where the Old Girls' School will be used. Polling stations will be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Candidates reportedly can have agents present as per usual. Boxes will be locked and sealed in the presence of the agents and transported to police headquarters in St. Kitts and the Charlestown Police Station in Nevis. The ballots are to be stored in the Commissioner's office in St. Kitts and the Assistant Commissioner's office in Nevis, where they will be under 24-hour surveillance by camera. Candidates' agents can be present as well as police security to keep watch. Interested parties can also be granted remote access to monitor the cameras off-site. We'll have more local news after this break.
You are watching NTV!
Welcome back. Supervisor of Elections Wingrove George says the electoral proceedings in St. Kitts and Nevis can only be carried out in a free and fair manner with the support of the general public. In a radio address on Monday, George appealed to the public to become aware of the notices concerning directions for the guidance of voters and electoral offences, which will be published in the local newspapers. He drew attention to the penalty for persons who may be found guilty of bribery, cheating, and undue influence. Such persons shall, on summary conviction, be liable to imprisonment for 6 months or a fine of $480. The Electoral Office, with the support of the Electoral Commission, returning officers, and the security forces, will be monitoring the electoral proceedings to ensure that the elections are peaceful, free, and fair. The Electoral Office has acceded to requests for local observers to observe the opening of the polls, the transportation of the ballot boxes to places of count, and the counting of ballots, and has also invited regional and international observers to be a part of the process. George says he is satisfied that the necessary arrangements have been made to ensure that fairness and honesty are observed in the electoral process. He is urging all eligible voters to exercise their franchise on Monday, February 16, 2015. He is also appealing to employers to allow every voter employed at their institution a reasonable period of time for voting as provided under the National Assembly Elections Act. And finally, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant Literary and Debating Society will host the 43rd Annual Leeward Islands Debating Competition in St. Kitts from Thursday, February 26th to Sunday, March 1st, 2015. About 200 high school and sixth form students, accompanied by their staff sponsors, are expected to converge on St. Kitts for the time-honored event. 2014 champions team Montserrat will be defending its title against the other 6 teams. With regard to the schedule of debates, at 7 p.m. on Thursday, February 26th, in Elimination 1, the British Virgin Islands and St. Martin will debate the moot, the CARICOM region's failure to legalize marijuana is a colossal mistake. At 6 p.m. on Friday, February 27th, Elimination 2 will see Anguilla versus Antigua, the moot. There should be stricter media censorship in Caribbean society. At 8 p.m., St. Kitts will come up against Nevis to debate the moot. Discriminatory screening practices are necessary to reduce the spread of viruses new to the Caribbean region. The semifinals round will take place at 6 p.m. on Saturday, February 28th. Montserrat will come up against the winner of Elimination 1 to debate the moot. The adverse effects of citizenship by investment programs outweigh the economic advantages. At 8 p.m., the winners of Eliminations 2 and 3 will debate the moot for fear of the church. Caribbean governments fail to address gay rights. The final round at 7 p.m. on Sunday, March 1st, will see the winner of semifinals 1 versus the winner of semifinals 2 debate the moot. When public funds are mismanaged, government leaders should face criminal prosecution. The 2015 Leeward Islands Debating Competition is expected to be one of a very high caliber, and the general public is invited to attend and support the debaters. The debates will take place at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort Ballroom. That's it for this evening's edition of the Nevis Newscast. Thank you for viewing. Good night.